Hi and welcome back to Reddit Whispers. I'm going to tell you a story about foundations, both the ones made of concrete and the ones made of trust. My entire life has been about building. I take broken, forgotten things and I make them strong again. It's my trade, my art, my religion. My wife and I built an empire on this simple principle, a small but formidable portfolio of properties that was a testament to our perfect partnership. I was the hands, the one who could see the soul of a house in its tired old bones. She was the mind, the brilliant strategist who saw the numbers, the angles, the opportunities. Our latest project was to be our masterpiece, and we made a smart financial move. We decided to live in it for a year to save a fortune on taxes. It was her idea, another testament to her genius. This story is about the horrifying discovery that our year of residency was not a tax strategy. It was the critical incubation period for the most elaborate and devastating act of identity theft imaginable. It's about learning that she wasn't just my partner in building an empire. She was secretly building a ghost, a phantom version of me, and she was using that ghost to steal our entire world right out from under my feet. Our business was a symphony of sledgehammers and spreadsheets. We were house flippers, but we had a reputation for quality, for soul. I would find the ugly ducklings, the houses with sagging porches and forgotten histories, and I would pour my life into them. The work was hard, physical, and deeply honest. It was a language I understood. She, on the other hand, spoke the language of money, of law, of the intricate dance of finance. She was the one who structured the deals, who managed the accounts, who found the legal loopholes that gave us our edge. Our partnership was a thing of beauty, a perfect fusion of brawn and brilliance. I trusted her with every fiber of my being. She was not just my wife, she was my other, smarter half. Our latest project, the Crestwood House, was the one. It was a beautiful, stately old Victorian that had fallen on hard times. We knew the moment we saw it that this was our magnum opus. The profit margin was going to be huge, and with that profit came a massive capital gains tax bill. That's when she came up with the idea. "We'll live in it," she had said one night, her eyes shining with the thrill of a brilliant new strategy. The law says if it's your primary residence for a year, the tax implications are completely different. We can save six figures. We'll be living in a construction zone, but we'll be together. It will be an adventure. And it was. For a year, we lived in a state of controlled, happy chaos. I would spend my days tearing down walls and rebuilding them, and my evenings with her planning the next phase covered in a fine layer of sawdust. She was my rock, managing the endless stream of paperwork, the permits, the accounts, all while turning our dusty worksite into a temporary home. I had never loved her more. I saw her idea not just as a smart financial move, but as a testament to our partnership, our willingness to sacrifice comfort for our shared dream. The year passed. The house was a masterpiece, a shining jewel transformed from a forgotten stone. It was time to sell, to reap the rewards of our hard work and clever planning, and to move on to the next project. That's when the first, impossible tremor shook the foundation of my world. I went to our bank to secure the financing for our next purchase, a formality we had been through a dozen times, but this time was different. The loan officer, a man who had always treated me with a kind of deferential respect, came back to his desk with a look of profound, uncomfortable confusion on his face. "There's a problem," he said, avoiding my eyes. "The application was flagged, denied. The system says your debt-to-income ratio is, well, it's impossible. It says you've recently taken out several large, unsecured personal loans." I laughed. It was so absurd it was comical. "That's a mistake," I said. "A clerical error. Run it again." He shook his head. "We did," he said, his voice a low whisper. "We even ran a new credit report. The inquiries are all there. It's all from the last 6 months. It's almost like there are two of you." I left the bank in a daze, my mind a scrambling chaos of rational explanations. It had to be a sophisticated identity theft, a hacker, a syndicate. I rushed home to tell her to present this crisis to my brilliant, problem-solving partner. I found her in her office and I laid out the impossible story. Her reaction was perfect. She was a symphony of concern, of righteous anger, of reassuring competence. She held my hand. She told me not to worry, that it was a nightmare, but that she would fix it. She would call the credit bureaus. She would hire a fraud specialist. "You just focus on finishing the final touches on the house, my love," she had said, her voice a soothing balm. "Let me go to war for you. I will handle this." And I, in my blind, absolute trust, felt a wave of profound gratitude. I had chosen the perfect partner. I had no idea that I was not talking to my ally. I was talking to the enemy general, the architect of the very war she was now promising to win on my behalf. I tried to focus on my work, but the lone officer's words, "It's like there are two of you," echoed in my head. I trusted her to handle it, but the builder in me, the man who needs to understand the structure of a problem, couldn't let it go. I decided to do my own digging, not out of suspicion, but out of a need to understand the enemy we were facing. I felt a pang of guilt, as if I were somehow violating her trust by not leaving it all in her capable hands. My first stop was the Public Records Office. I wanted to see the deeds, the official paperwork on all our properties, to make sure nothing had been tampered with. I started with our rental properties, the ones that were the bedrock of our empire. And on the third property I looked up, I found it. An anomaly. A quitclaim deed filed 3 months ago, transferring the ownership of the property from our joint names to a new entity, an LLC I had never heard of. Her Vision Properties. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a random hacker. This was a targeted attack. I dug into the LLC. The registered agent was an anonymous service, but the address listed for the company was a simple local post office box. A new, more terrifying thought began to form in my mind, a thought so monstrous I tried to push it away. That night I did the unthinkable. I waited until she was asleep and I went into her office. I went to her computer. I felt like the worst kind of traitor. Her password was the address of the first house we had ever flipped together. The irony was a physical blow. I didn't know what I was looking for. I just started searching. I searched for the name of the LLC, and I found the folder. Inside was a complete parallel universe of our life. There were incorporation documents for a dozen different shell companies. There were scanned copies of documents that looked like my driver's license, my social security card, my birth certificate, but with small, subtle, almost imperceptible alterations. A different middle initial, a single digit in the date of birth changed. And then I found the bank statements. A series of accounts for a man with my name, but at a bank we had never used. And in these accounts were the proceeds from the personal loans the bank had told me about. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, taken out by a man who looked like me, who had my name, but who was not me. She hadn't just stolen my identity, she had cloned it. She had created a ghost, a doppelganger, a second, phantom version of me. And then the final, horrifying piece of the puzzle clicked into place. The year of residency. The brilliant tax-saving move. It was never about the taxes. It was about creating a stable, verifiable, physical address. For an entire year, she had been having mail from my phantom twin sent to our home, the very home I was breaking my back to rebuild. She had been building a paper trail, a history, a life for this ghost, right under my nose. The mail I had never seen, the junk mail she so diligently shredded every day, that was his life. The late-night conference calls with our lawyers. The endless stream of paperwork she was always managing. It was all part of building him, of giving him the legitimacy he needed to go out into the world and borrow a fortune in my name. The house we were living in wasn't our adventure. It was her laboratory. And I was not her partner. I was the primary, unwitting subject of her greatest, most monstrous experiment. The confrontation was quiet and it was brutal. I did not scream. I did not rage. I was a builder who had just discovered that the entire foundation of his world was made of sand, and all I had left was the cold, hard clarity of the facts. I waited until the next morning. I printed out a single document, the deed transfer that moved one of our properties into her secret company's name. I walked into the kitchen where she was making coffee, a perfect picture of domestic love, and I placed it on the counter in front of her. Her Vision Properties, I said, my voice a dead, calm thing I did not recognize. Is that the name of our new partner? She looked at the paper, and the mask, the beautiful, loving, competent mask she had worn for 15 years, did not just crack, it vanished. Her face became a thing of pure, cold, and utterly unapologetic calculation. She looked from the paper to my face, and in her eyes I saw not a flicker of remorse or shame. I saw only the cool, detached annoyance of a master architect whose brilliant, complex design has just been discovered by a simple, uneducated laborer. It was the only way to grow, she said, her voice as calm and as cold as my own. You were always the break, the sentimentalist, the one who was content with good enough. I wanted to build an empire. You were content with building houses. I needed a partner who could move at my speed, so I created one. Her words were a confession, but they were also a final, profound insult. She had not just betrayed me. She was telling me she had replaced me with a better, more efficient version of myself, a version that was not burdened by my own sentimental morality. So you created a ghost, I said, and you made me pay for it. You took my name and you used it to destroy me. I didn't destroy you, she said, her voice laced with a condescending pity that was more enraging than any lie. I streamlined you. I took the asset, your good name, your work ethic, and I separated it from the liability. You, your caution, your sentimentality. I built a machine that could operate without the drag of your conscience. It was a brilliant plan. It would have worked if you hadn't been so nosy. In that moment, I saw the full, terrifying scope of her pathology. She was not a wife. She was a CEO, and I was not her husband. I was an underperforming division of her company, a division she had decided to liquidate. Our marriage had not been a partnership. It had been a hostile takeover, and I was the only one who hadn't known it was happening. I looked at this stranger, this creature of pure, beautiful, and utterly ruthless ambition, and I felt the last piece of the man I used to be, the trusting, loving husband, turn to dust. The house is finished, I said, and so are we. The aftermath was a legal and financial hurricane. She had been brilliant. The lines between me, the real me, and my phantom twin were so blurred, the paper trail so complex and so deliberately convoluted, that untangling it was a nightmare. While the lawyers fought, the empire we had built was paralyzed, and the debts my ghost had accumulated were coming due. She had a final, brutal move to play. She declared bankruptcy, not for herself but for her shell companies. She had structured it perfectly, a series of legal firewalls that allowed her to walk away from the debt, leaving it all attached to the single, remaining entity, me. I was left with the ruins. The properties, our beautiful, restored houses, had to be sold off one by one to pay for the debts a man who didn't exist had incurred. I lost everything. The empire, the money, the future I had worked my entire life to build. I was left with my tools, my truck, and a name that was now a toxic wasteland. But in the end, that was all I needed. I started over, not as an empire builder, not as a flipper. I went back to the beginning. I became a simple craftsman again, a man who builds things with his own two hands. I take on small jobs, a custom bookshelf here, a restored staircase there. The work is hard. The money is modest, but it is honest. It is real, and it is mine. I learned a brutal lesson. I learned that the strongest foundations are not the ones you build with a partner. They are the ones you must first build within yourself. I had built my life on the foundation of my trust in her, and when she walked away, she had taken the entire world with her. Now I am building a new life, a smaller, quieter, and infinitely stronger one. And this time, the foundation is made of something no one can ever take from me again. My own, hard-won, and finally, unbreakable self-reliance. Thank you for tuning in to Reddit Whispers. We've all faced moments when everything felt broken. What was your turning point? Leave it in the comments because your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now.